There are three main keys to create depth for your painting. Number 1, color. Number 2, texture or clarity. Number 3, contrast or value. These three methods works every time I want to create depth for my painting. Let's waste no time and allow me to share with you how I apply it to my painting. Firstly, let me share with you my reference photos. Yes, the corns is real, it's so beautiful. Watercolor with clear water, and then I apply warm color to one side of the painting, followed by cool green behind the pirate. I already planned ahead before I start to drop colors for my background. Cool color appear further in the distance, whereas warm color appear closer. Another reason that I have cool green behind the pirate because it gives contrast to the red feather. Wet on wet technique, I add thin layers of green on top of my Winsor lemon, and that I could introduce a warm green to my painting. I don't want to draw a lot of attention to this area, so I use cooler green compared to the green I use on the top. I let the first layer dry naturally, and then I start to paint in the stalk and the cone leaves. Wet on dry technique for this layer. This layer is get closer to the main subject, so everything getting clearer. You can see the leaves, the stalk, the cones, but I keep all of them very simple by using my 3/4 flat brush. I forgot to press recording when I start to paint the pirate, but this part is quite important, so I decided to share with you my rough sketch on the back of my scrap paper, so at least you have an idea what I'm talking about. With my reference photo, the bird is under the shade, but now since I have it with the cone, I need to decide where or which part of the bird that's been lit by the sunlight. So I use Winsor lemon as an underpainting, and then I use red to the rest of the part, and then I let it blend or help it blends on the paper instead of on the palette. The parts of the bird that's been lit by sunlight, now you could see that it's in orangish yellowish color because I let the red blend in with the yellow, and I did not let it dry completely. The paper is damp as I start painting the black pattern on the red feather. And then the paper start to get drier and drier until I be able to create clear and more defined feather pattern. According to my reference photo, the wings on the back of the pirates are in the same color, but I want to make it look more three-dimensional, so I decided to create a lighter value for the wing that's on the other side. Now this area is dry completely. I add darker red to the low light area, and then I create brush stroke to suggest feather texture. I try not to overdo it, less is more, as I do not want to overwork my painting. So this is the flat angle brush that I'm using. It's no fancy brush, in fact it's already ruined. For the third layer, I add darker red to create darker value to the low light area. With my detail brush, I start to paint the dark feather around the eye and also the eye, using the same dark pigment that I use for the black feather on the back of the pirate. With my dark red mixture, I add a few brush strokes to suggest the feather texture. The dark red feather creates transition between the red feather and the black feather that's on the back of the pirate. The feather underneath the beaks are violet, and they are very tiny, and it's give a nice contrast to the orangey red feather. This area is quite small, so sometimes when you paint wet on wet, it sort of cover your light area too much, so I use lifting technique to create my highlight. Contrast and value play an important part in painting, even more important than getting the color to match the subject. When I paint feathers, I also pay close attention to value. When I get my value correct and place it on the right place, the feather look believable. I'm using the same violet mixture that I use for the feather that underneath the beak, and the dark feather over here is Payne's Gray. It's the same color I use on the back of the parrot. I'm painting the tail wet on wet technique so that it looks soft and blurry, therefore it doesn't attract a lot of attention. Negative painting create the jagged feather so that I could paint the red feather later, but I painted carefully that the red doesn't touch the purple. Instead of using white gouache or masking fluid to define the feather, I use lifting technique. Therefore, it doesn't create harsh or hard line, or it's too white that I need to cover it up with paint later. I took the reference photo of the corn in December last year. I really want to paint this corn because I love how beautiful it is, but I couldn't find the chance, or I couldn't find another subject to go with it. Now I finally found the perfect subject, and the color of the main subject and the corn fit together very well. I used the color of the parrot to paint the corn. After I paint all the corn kernel, I use light gray to separate the corn kernel. Using very light green to glaze on top of the corn kernel to suggest a casting shadow. At this point, I'm using designer white gouache to add the highlight on each corn kernel, and also add the highlight to the eye, followed by wet damp brush to soften the highlight. I use my gray mixture to paint the beaks of the parrot, because I find that the paint gray looks too blue for this area. Because the area around the nostril is too tiny to use lifting technique, so I use designer gouache to create a lighter tone. Thank you so much for staying till the end. If you like to see my 3 reasons for not using masking fluid, please click on the video on the right hand side. See you in my next video. In the meantime, please take care.